Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mr. McCobb's Movie Library. It's glad to have you here. So, anyway, this is a movie that I'm going to talk about. You already know what it is by the title. Let me just first off say I am not in support of harming women in any way, shape, or form. I do not support the idea of violating women in any shape, fashion, or form. If you are the kind of person that believes in hurting women, terrorizing women, violating women, I urge you either to go seek help or go play in oncoming traffic. That being said, the movies that we're going to talk about, what I'm going to do today, I don't know if I've ever done something like this before, but I thought it'd be fun to try. I'm going to do a comparison between an original and a remake. And the movie that I chose is I Spit on Your Grave. So we're going to be talking about the 1978 I Spit on Your Grave, aka Day of the Woman. No, it doesn't have it here. This woman has just cut, chopped, broken, and burned 5 men beyond recognition, even though it's only 4. But no jury in America would ever convict her. And I'm sure, anybody who's heard any of the rumors or the details going on, the double there that was used is actually supposed to be a young Demi Moore. So, and I believe Demi Moore is supposed to have confirmed it, that was her. She did model for this movie poster. But anyway, we're going to discuss the original I Spit on Your Grave, and we're going to discuss the 2000, was it 2009, 2010? I don't remember. But anyway, we're going to discuss the remake of I Spit on Your Grave. And while this isn't a horrible remake, I definitely have some problems with this. But, these movies fall under the category of what they call a rape revenge film. I'm sure you already know that, but just in case if anybody out there is unaware of that. And also, too, this goes back to my what I was saying before. Bear in mind, okay, if you're the kind of person who gets off on seeing women being attacked or being, raped or any of that kind of stuff, bear in mind, the subgenre is called rape revenge, okay, and what that means is in this movie or series of films, a woman or women will be raped. However, there will be consequences to that. Okay, so just so you know, it's like, you're not going, that's the thing about these kind of films. You're not going to see women being attacked. That's not entertainment. It's sure shit is not fun to watch. Nobody wants to see that. It's disgusting. It's awful. It's terrible. It's the worst thing you can do to a woman. But the thing is what makes it satisfying is seeing the revenge aspect of it. Whether the woman or women themselves get the revenge or other people get the revenge for them. In the case of, I'm sure there probably have been other films prior to it, but, one that is kind of considered like the OG kind of film of this type is The Virgin Spring by Ingmar Bergman, where a young woman goes off on a pilgrimage. She's attacked and raped and killed by this group of men and this young boy. And then they turn around and go seek shelter in the house that it turns out to be the house of the girl's father, played by Max von Sydow. And when his character learns of what they did to his daughter, he takes revenge and brutally kills all of them, even the little boy, And then, of course, if that sounds very familiar, it's because Wes Craven in the 1970s, he did his film, The Last House on the Left. I think one of these days I'm probably going to do a video talking about that movie too. But in Wes Craven's film, Last House on the Left, he took the skeletal structure of that film and modernized it, but also put in his own ideas and made it his own. And so it's kind of the same premise. This young girl with her friend, they go out to a rock concert. They're looking to get some weed, have a little bit of a good time. They run into this group of killers and rapists and stuff like this, and then they are violated and degraded and murdered. And then they turn around and they go to their car breaks down. They go to this house. Turns out the house belongs to one of the girl's parents. They find out, and then boom, here we go. But then we get into this movie here the original I Spit on Your Grave, which, you know, I'm going to probably be able to give just a little bit of insight into this, but if you haven't already, the best way that I could tell you to get information about this film, to give you real insight into what this film is and what the filmmaker, I mean, obviously, yeah, you can listen to the director's commentary because there's a director's commentary on there, but somebody who kind of really kind of lays it out for you and kind of tells you that this movie is not anti-female. If anything, it's very anti-male. Okay, but the one person who can really spell it out for you is Joe Bob Briggs. And I would strongly urge anybody, if you've got this, even if you don't really want to watch the movie, listen to Joe Bob Briggs' commentary on it, and he explains why this is a valid film and why it does exist and should exist, and why this, if anything else, is more of a feminist film than it is an anti-female film. And that's the biggest issue I have between the original and the remake. In my opinion, the remake doesn't particularly feel much like a feminist film, and I'll get into that in just a minute. Now, if you haven't seen the storyline, you haven't seen the movie, the storyline is pretty basic, it's pretty simple. This young woman, Jennifer Hills, played by Camille Keaton there, you see her there, okay? She's a writer, she goes off and, she rents a cabin or a house in Connecticut, and she's going off because, she's a writer and she's going to start work on her first book. So she wants, a place with like some peace and quiet where she can concentrate and focus on writing her book. She goes there and she runs into these group of guys who they turn out are just disgusting guys. And, they start having all these horrible conversations about women and talking about, all women are just sluts. All women just want to have sex all the time. And this girl, Jennifer Hills, she's from New York, and any woman who lives in New York and California, they just live there so they can have sex 24/7, all this other kind of stuff. And so one of the guys in this group is mentally handicapped. And so they decide to help him lose his virginity. They turn around and decide to go attack Jennifer and get this guy, his name is Matthew, to, have his first sexual experience. But at first, Matthew is reluctant. And then, they decide, well, let's just all have a turn. And so these guys end up taking turns assaulting and violating Jennifer. It's very hard to watch. It's very unpleasant. And if you haven't seen the movie, the rumors are true. The rape scene goes on for almost 25 to 30 minutes long. It's unbearable to watch. It will make you sick. It will make you want to throw up. It's horrible. But the point is, it's supposed to be. And honestly, I would say if you are the kind of person, if you watch that scene and you are horrified by it, you were sickened by it, you are angry about it, then that's the way you should feel. Because you should never, this part of the movie is not entertainment. You should not be entertained by seeing a woman being attacked. Okay? And like I said, if you are the kind of person that is entertained by watching that kind of thing, go take a long walk off a short pier. That's all I know to tell you. Okay? But, they attack Jennifer. They do the most horrible things to her. And just short of killing her, she's left alive. And then we see her struggle to heal, to rebuild herself. And then you got to remember something though too, okay? Laws are, now I'm not going to sit here and say that all the laws benefit women nowadays, but the laws are a little bit better now than what they were back in the 70s. Because you got to remember, at the time this movie was made, there wasn't really a lot of laws that protected women who were victims of sexual assault. That has changed a little bit over the years. And yes, you can definitely argue that it's not as changed as it should be, but women have a little bit more of a leg to stand on in the course when it comes to these kind of cases now than what they did back then. Touchy subject to talk about, isn't it? However, Jennifer is able to rebuild herself. And you got to remember, like back in these days, if a woman was sexually violated, you didn't have DNA, you didn't have all this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of the times, women of these victims of kind of crimes, most of the time, all they could do is just like, if they could catch the guy in the act or something, then yeah. But a lot of the times it was just like, I'm sorry, ma'am, you're just going to have to figure out a way to cope with it and move on with your life. Doesn't sound very pleasant, does it? So it's not like she could go to the police. It's not like she would have much to work with. So she ultimately decides to get revenge for herself. She goes and she starts singling these guys out, and she takes them out one by one. Now, I do agree, I don't know so much agree, but I understand that a lot of people are angry about the revenge part of this film because, it's just when it gets to because the rape scene is drawn out so long, but once you get to the revenge part, it's just boom, boom, boom. She just takes these guys all out. Boom, 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 one by one. And it just feels like it's kind of rushed. And I get that a lot of people are like, after you've seen what these guys have done to her, you want to see it drawn out. You want to see these guys suffer, And there's one scene, I'm not going to go into it, because of YouTube and all that, but there is one scene where one of the guys does suffer quite a bit. I know I sure as hell wouldn't want to suffer the way this guy did, but at the same time, though, too, I would never want to physically hurt a woman because I have women friends that I care very deeply about. Their friendship means the world to me. They're wonderful ladies. They brighten up my day. They make me feel good about myself. And the idea of anything bad ever happening to them would destroy me. So hurting women doesn't appeal to me. So anyway, but this movie, like I said, it's very tough. This movie was a video nasty at one point. It's not easy to watch. I'm not going to lie to you. But like I said, I think to get a really good grip on this film, to get a good understanding of it, like I said, you can watch Miyazaki, the director. You can watch his commentary on it. But you can also, listen to Joe Bob Briggs. And I think after you listen to him, you will understand why a movie like this should even exist in the first place. And like I said, yeah, I can't really recommend this movie. I don't see it very much as entertainment, but I can understand why it's there, why it exists. And, this movie is a feminist film. It's not an anti-female film. Okay. Because it's like, there is that kind of shift now where a lot of these feminist films are women who have no struggles, nothing is ever a problem or anything like that. And it's all like, that doesn't really do much to, build up, to build up your women characters and to get everybody to be on their side and to care and sympathize about these characters. You know what I mean? So anyway, so there's that. There's the remake, and now the original. Now we're going to talk about the remake. And I do have some serious problems with this. Sarah Butler, I think, did a phenomenal job. She really played the part of Jennifer Hills pretty well. One thing, this movie is very similar. These two movies are very similar to the original and the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the sense that this movie plays very much like a documentary. There's no music score. It has a very like you are there feel. It doesn't feel like a traditional film. It feels much more like a bunch of psychos just decided to film, a woman being violated and then film a series of murder and film her killing these guys for fun. So it definitely has that kind of, really like I said, documentary kind of pull you into a kind of a feel. Whereas this movie is very much, it definitely has much more of a Hollywood movie feel. There is a musical score in this film. You have known actors in this film. You have Rodney Eastman from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. You have, what's his name? Chad Lindbergh, I think that's the guy's name. The guy from, Chad Lindbergh from Fast and the Furious. You had, I forget the name of the actor who played the sheriff, but I think he was in one of the Transformers movies. You had Tracy Walter. This guy had been in like zillions of movies. He's one of those guys. You see him, you know him because you've seen him in playing movies. But like this movie definitely feels much more like a Hollywood film. It is brutal. you have Francis, however you say his last name, from Mean Girls. So, so the difference between this movie and this movie is that this movie really feels like you're watching something you should not be seeing. You feel like you've gotten into something you really should not be into. Where this movie, you are, the entire time, you're 100% aware that you're watching a film and you know it's a movie. It's reinforced throughout the whole thing that you are watching a film. The storyline is pretty much the same. Jennifer Hills comes to a secluded house to work on her book. She runs into these group of guys, and they decide that they're going to violate her, and she gets revenge on them. There is a difference, though, that they add in the character of the sheriff, who turns out the sheriff is, the lead. If there was a lead bad guy in the movie, it would be the sheriff. The sheriff is the overall, like, the one you really want to see get it the worst is the sheriff character. I've had discussions with people about this movie, and a lot of people, and they were confused by this movie. And the reason why they were confused by this movie is because in this version of the film, the rape scene is, while it is lengthy and it is intense, it is very much pared down from how it was in the original film. It's still grueling and unsettling to watch, no doubt about it. And is sure as shiz, not for entertainment purposes, sure as shit about that. But like I said, the rape scene is very smaller. It's smaller. It's more condensed from the original. And a lot of it kind of happens off screen. But when it gets to the revenge part of the film, that is very long and drawn out. And, this movie has the biggest problem with this remake is the fact that this movie, okay, when you make a rape and revenge film, the point is you're trying to make a pro-female film. You are trying to make a feminist film. You are trying to make a movie that you will get you to sympathize and care and understand what women have to endure, what women have to go through if they're victims of sexual assault. This movie here feels much more like it takes too much time. There's too much focus on the characters of the rapists, the guys. There's too much focus on their characters. It almost starts to feel almost like the same kind of plot of something like I Know What You Did Last Summer, where these, it's like the story of I Know What You Did Last Summer. These kids, do this terrible thing, and then they're like trying to just move on and try to not deal with it and everything else, but it comes back to get them. But when you watch I Know What You Did Last Summer, that movie is very much trying to get you to sympathize with those kids. Try to make the audience think, they did a bad thing, but they're not bad kids. It's like they did one horrible thing, but you could still relate to them. And this movie kind of almost does the same thing, which you never do that in a rape revenge movie. You don't make the male characters likable. You don't try to make them sympathetic. Like at one point in the movie, Jennifer Hills, she smokes a joint, and then when the sheriff asks her about it, she says no, and she pins it on the guys. It's like, dude, you don't put stuff like that into a rape revenge film. You don't turn the audience on your female character or characters. They're supposed to be the ones you're supposed to side with. You don't side with the guys. It's just not the way it works. And then, like I said, and that's the thing, and then because the rape scene is condensed and everything, but then the revenge scenes are so long and drawn out. I've actually had people, not just men, but women too, have come to me and said, I feel like this movie, what she does to them is worse than what they did to her. Not that they should get away with it, but still, it just feels like, and then just, there's too much time taken away from her. We don't get to see her heal and rebuild herself the way she did in the first movie. A lot of the time is more focused on the guys and what they're doing and what they're going through and all this kind of stuff. It should never be done that way. Not in these kind of films. It should never be done that way, And then also too, the whole thing about the sheriff's daughter, when Jennifer Hills takes the sheriff's daughter and then we never find out what happens to her until I Spit on Your Grave 3. But we don't find out what happens to her. So the audience is like, wait, did she kill the little girl? The funny part is when you listen to the commentary on here, they just say, well, you just didn't understand the movie we were making. But it's like, you kind of missed the point here. The same director did go and do I Spit on Your Grave 2, and I definitely recommend this movie. Gemma Delander is the most underrated actress I have ever seen in my life, and I will die on that hill. I want to see this woman in more movies. I've seen her in a couple of more since then. This woman is an amazing talent, and I am pissed off that this woman does not get more roles. She deserves it. If you see her in this movie, her acting is beyond bold and powerful, and I want to see this woman in more movies. Not to take anything away from Sarah Butler, okay? Not to take anything away from her. But just, this movie kind of gets it wrong. It really does. And it just does fall flat because you're supposed to, when you get into these kind of films, like I said, these are supposed to be pro-women films. You're supposed to sympathize with the women. You don't sympathize with the men. And then and then it's like, there are so many plot holes in this movie. Like, they make it a point to let you know in the movie that after the deed, the guys take her car, strip her car completely down. They burn everything she owns, her wallet, her credit cards, everything. Like, how does she get all this stuff back? It just all happens off screen. All of a sudden, she has new clothes, she has a new car, all this other kinds of stuff. She's just able to just get all this stuff, And then now, all of a sudden, she's Jigsaw. Because now when you get into the revenge part of it, you're in Saw territory. It's like now, these are all like these elaborate traps and everything else. These elaborate things to kill these guys and everything else. And it's just like, just like... to sum it all up, though, I don't hate this remake. I can sit through it. I just don't like it. There is a formula that goes with these kind of films. And the overall formula, the overall thing is you have to sympathize with the woman. The woman is the main character of the movie. She's supposed to be the one you're supposed to side with. You don't side with the guys. You don't put so much time and attention on the rapist in the movie. And that's why this movie kind of falls flat to me. I can sit through it. It just bugs me. There are a lot of plot holes, things wrong with it. But like I said, I do think that the director redeemed himself with this movie. I think this movie gets it right. And, like I said, I believe that Gemma Delander is one of the most underrated actresses ever. She deserves more roles. But understand something, these movies, if that's your thing. If you like seeing women being violent, there's something seriously wrong with you. Seriously, get some help. Or just disappear. But understand, the point of these movies is, it's about women getting revenge for the things done to them. And if it's not them getting the revenge, it's the people that love them getting the revenge. So, but overall, while I don't recommend this movie, I don't consider it entertainment, I respect what it tries to do. I respect it as a feminist film. And, like I said, I think, research this movie and, kind of, study it a little bit, and try to learn why this movie, go into the background of the director and what led him into making this movie to begin with. It's there. Joe Bob Briggs talks about it. The director himself talks about it and everything else. It will help you understand why a movie like this would even exist. But this one here, I don't know. But, like I said, I could sit through it, but it's definitely not one of my better remakes. Hopefully I got all the points out that I wanted to make, but, so that's it. So, I think you took the time to watch this. I thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it. I hope you enjoyed this video, or at least got some bit of information out of it. If you did like it, would you please leave a like? And if you haven't already, please go and subscribe to my channel. And, that's it. Thank you for taking the time with me, and, I'll see you all later.